Another episode of Wide Angle. Today we are in conversation with Uzair Hassan. I'm going to introduce Uzair to all of you in a bit, but let me say hi to Uzair and welcome him to the show. Uzair, thank you so much for joining us today. How do you feel?
Good. Happy to be here.
Great, wonderful to have you. So for the benefit of our audience, let me quickly tell them what you really do. So Uzair has been in Dubai for the last 32 years, and in this time he's worn many hats, that of a banker, a professor with an international university, and a consultant and coach. Currently, among other interesting things, Uzair operates a series of companies under the brand name of 3Ed Solutions Group that is primarily into coaching, training, consulting, and organization development. 3Ed Solutions is associated with numerous Fortune 500 companies, adding value to their senior and mid-level leadership as well as their frontline staff. In the current situation, Uzair's company has completely reinvented itself and has moved all its activities over to a virtual online platform. So now they conduct really interesting workshops, team building activities, everything over a virtual medium. I personally have known Uzair for about 5 years now?
Yes.
And so I will add my own 2-bit here. Anyone who knows Uzair would know that he has a really wicked sense of humor, and there's never a dull moment with him around. He also is sharp as a razor, and it's very easy to figure out why his clients love him. So it's an absolute pleasure to connect with you after a long time, and so looking forward to this chat.
Thank you. A lot to live up to, but okay.
I'm sure you'll do well, so I'm not worried. Okay, so the topic that we're discussing today is an oft used and oft abused term, and that's leadership. Nobody wants to be a manager these days. Everybody wants to be a leader.
Yes.
So Uzair, I'd like to know what is your definition of this much
definition?
What is this much abuse?
Defining it is not an easy one, because if you look at what is leadership and Google that, you'll get nearly 900 million results. That's crazy. So it's a very rich tapestry made by experts, practitioners, leaders, thinkers. All sorts of people have pushed their ideas onto it, and the definition has become a bit muddled. But unfortunately for a lot of people, leadership is a piece, leadership. So a lot of companies call us and say, can you do a leadership program?
Yeah.
That doesn't mean anything. I mean, there's about 50 different sub-elements under that leadership banner. Which one is your pain point? What do you want to address? So is it a performance management issue? Is it a strategic formulation issue? Is it a coaching issue? There's so many different elements. So you can't just say leadership and think it's all very clear. So that tapestry is rich, but it's very complex. And to give you some interesting insights, there's a couple of interesting senior people that have come up with definitions that they're trying to shorten to make it more crisp and succinct. So one of them was the leader is someone who has followers. But the challenge with that is an army captain can have followers. He's never met them. He's in his barracks, but they're meant to follow him. That doesn't make him a leader. The leadership is a capacity to change vision into reality. That's a big one that a lot of people come up with. Well, I had a vision for a garden and I did a lot of work and now I have tomatoes. That's converted into reality, but that doesn't make me a leader. I'm a gardener. So what are we talking about here? Or leadership is influence, but a guy with a gun has influence. I mean, you've got to keep an open mind on so many of these things that people come up with. And they're all very senior people, Peter Drucker, John Maxwell. They've come up with these things and then you keep thinking, but wait, that doesn't make sense. This doesn't make sense. But there's so many different elements to it. But I think for me, it's not a position. It's a contribution one makes. So it's a social influence, not an influence because I'm your direct line manager or senior person. It's a social influence one has control over. And then it's about others, not necessarily direct reports. It's just about others. Because who makes you a leader? Your followers. And if there are no followers, you're not a leader. And then the final element is it's for a greater good, because it has to have an intended outcome. What are you trying to achieve here? So I think overall, it's a muddled setup. Even now, the jury is out on so many different aspects of a definition, and that's why there's about 900 million hits on that, trying to figure out what it is actually. And there are quite a few different aspects to it, influence and capacity to translate vision into reality and all these things. But at the end of the day, it's about social influence and a greater good with others, not necessarily direct reports.
Yeah, wonderful. That's a great analysis of some of those great statements that we often hear and see on presentations, but no one really, delves deeper than what they see on the screen up there. But I agree with you. So, Uzair, in the current situation with this whole pandemic and the crisis situation that all of us are faced with, leadership qualities have become all the more important now. Any particular leadership quality that you think, or qualities that are relevant in the current situation that's important for organizations to kind of stay afloat?
I think the first one I would put is agility. Because a lot of people hold back and think, oh, it's going to go away, or let's wait and see, or it's not too bad. You've got to be agile with these things. If you don't start the process now, it'll be too late for you. Forward thinking, strategic thinking. Another critical one is digital awareness. Because just like my company, we were a face-to-face training company. And because of this, we had to convert to a digital platform. And if I wasn't aware of how and what to do, I'd be dead in the water. So that's a critical one. If you're talking about people, then emotional intelligence and empathy, those are two key ones that one has to have, because it's not just the company you're trying to save, it's the people that run it as well. So it's a people focus. Strong communication skills is one, because obviously whatever you come up with, you've got to convey it all the way down the line, and how effective are you in doing that? And I think finally, innovation and creativity, because you've got to become creative in these circumstances. What you thought was going to work is not working. So how do you convert all of that? So I think some of these aspects are key for leadership in these particular times.
Absolutely, that makes sense. So the thought that comes to my mind is a lot of these qualities would apply to leadership even in a non-crisis situation. Like they say, adversity brings out true character. So a leader who could be seen as, great in an otherwise normal situation, could the same person be, a poor leader during crisis? Because these are completely different scenarios, like a normal, business as usual kind of environment versus the crisis pandemic situation. So a great leader in a normal situation, is it possible that the same person may not be able to project the same leadership qualities in a crisis situation?
Oh, absolutely. I've got live examples, but they would be more political. But it does make a lot of sense. Like I said before, leadership under the big leadership banner, there's about 50 different elements, and somebody might be brilliant at 20 or 30 of them, but crisis management is not one of them. And that's obviously possible because it's not something that comes by regularly, so people don't give it much focus and don't think about it. They keep focusing on the well-known ones. I should be a good coach, I should be a performance management guru, I should be this and that. But crisis management, which crisis? So it doesn't hit more than once in 50 years. I may not ever need it, so let's not focus on that. And for sure, there's a lot of people that have reacted really badly and lost out in these pandemic times. And there's a lot of people that were unknown. I'll give you an example. Jacinda Ardern, the Prime Minister of New Zealand.
Yeah.
Phenomenal work, and she's been hailed for being an absolute hero. And she wasn't on the stage anywhere. So again, it's how you react to crisis and what you do that really makes a difference. And for sure, I believe that superb leaders could also falter in a crisis situation.
Absolutely. I think that you brought up a great example. I think one of the key things that's been appreciated about Jacinta is she's just let her guard down and she's responded or reacted to the situation as a human being would.
Absolutely.
That's something that leaders generally miss out on. They try to wear that leadership crown at all times and hence fail to connect with people at a human level.
Yes.
So when you mentioned communication is an important quality, communication could take on different look during a non-crisis situation versus a crisis situation, right? Somebody who's a great communicator in a non-crisis situation could actually fail at communication in a crisis situation.
Yes, very true.
So is there anyone in particular that you admire for his or her leadership skills? You mentioned Jacinta, but anybody else that you really appreciated, admired in the last 6 months?
Elon Musk. Incredible person as far as I'm concerned. Tesla, you know about Tesla. He's the head there. He's created the whole thing. He's a visionary. He's a disruptor. And he's got a broadband mind, which is really unusual. If you look at people, they've achieved something great, but in one particular thing. He has achieved great things in so many different ways. So Tesla is obviously one of them. He's single-handedly moved the entire industry down the electrical path. On top of that, Hyperloop, I don't know if you've heard of it, from Dubai to Abu Dhabi in 12 minutes. That's incredible stuff. SpaceX rockets, they land and come back. That's a whole different way of looking at things. Self-drive, there's a Mars expedition going on. Neuralink, have you heard of Neuralink? That's an incredible change. So he's got an interface between the human brain and computers. So you can upload and download things, which is absolutely work of science fiction, but it's coming up to a real thing now. So as for him, in the future, maybe a long time from now, but you're going to Japan and you don't know the language, you can download it and start speaking to them tomorrow.
Wow.
That's incredible. And if that comes, and I sort of believe in him because he's come up with the craziest of ideas and the entire industry has scoffed and laughed at him. And he's made it a reality. So when he comes up with stuff, I don't just look away and think, oh, that's crazy. I do think he might be able to pull it off. And if he does, I think our specific industry is going to be changing completely because training, development, none of that is needed. You download whatever you need and you've got everything. So that's a huge change. So I think he's an incredible person. One of the few, I think, that has gone so broadband that he hasn't stopped and enjoyed his success in one thing. He just keeps going on and on, coming up with wild ideas and making them work. So I think he's brilliant.
Yeah. So I think in all of these examples, in all of these people and the examples that you cited, one common thread seems to be innovation.
Absolutely, yes. And that's why I brought it into that innovation and creativity is going to be the need of the hour, the need of the day for all senior leaders in the future. And I think one of the things that a lot of people don't look at is situational awareness. So are they aware of their surroundings and the situation of their industry? So a great example is IBM. They didn't see profits moving from hardware to software. They kept producing hardware, whereas the whole industry had gone down the software route. So a lot of people think they do really good and they're the biggest and the best, and suddenly they don't even exist. So situational awareness is another one of them. And courage. Courage is another one. A lot of people have all the information. They don't have the courage to make that change. They keep hoping, well, it'll all come back and it'll be okay. You have to move. You can't just sit there and wait.
Yeah. Whoever said leadership is not easy.
Yes.
Actually speaking the truth, you do have to make those difficult decisions and sometimes be a risk taker, and your risks may fail, and that leads to an entirely different story altogether.
Yeah, absolutely. Mike Tyson came up with a nice one. He said, everyone has a plan until they get punched. So, do you have a plan after you're punched? When you don't, you're just planning on how to win. You're not planning on how to come back from a loss. Or there's an African proverb which sort of fits it. When the beat of the drum changes, so must the dance.
Wonderful, isn't it? Yeah.
So are we really moving with the beat, or are we just moving on our own?
Yeah, I think leaders must get ready to take a punch on their face and be ready to change their dance moves.
Absolutely.
Situation. So that whole agility concept, right? Change quickly.
Yes.
Situational awareness. Yeah, wonderful.
Very true.
Uzair, from your experience, what advice would you share with leaders while navigating the current crisis? What are some do's and don'ts that they could keep in mind?
There's a very interesting book by Marshall Goldsmith. What got you here won't get you there.
Yeah.
Far too many people depend on what they've done in the past, and I know how to do it. We do this in a classroom. We make people build airplanes and fly them. And we've done this in 15 countries, and 90% of them, or maybe more, build the same plane that we started building when we were kids 5 years old. They haven't changed since then. And it's because at the human mind, once you know the solution, you think, I know how to fix this, let's move on. But wait, is there a better way to fix it? They don't revisit and look at how it can be done better. And I think that's one of the problems. They're depending too much on the past. They have to unlearn, relearn, reinvent, and accept the way things are with the changed situation. There's a famous saying, I can't remember who it's by, but it says, the will to disbelieve is the biggest deterrent to wider horizons.
Wow.
And we do that all the time. No way, that's not possible. And that's what Elon Musk has done. If you think that's impossible, let me show you how it's done. So that's a key one. And I think another one that I truly believe in is we focus too much on the processes, structures, procedures, products, but we don't look at the people element, because whatever you do, it's here, but you can't change a large entity on your own with what you've got here. It's got to be with the help of people. So that people aspect is forgotten in times of crisis, and we start focusing on the revenue streams and the products and how we can fix this and fix that. So the people side of it is going to be a key one. I think if you're a leader that's got an incredible mind, but you can't communicate it all the way down, then you're not leading. You're going for a walk alone. So people, yeah.
Wonderful. So do you think that that's one of the common mistakes that leaders often make? Powerful leaders miss out on their people element.
I think people become conscious of the fact that they're answerable to the organization for the profitability. If they've got huge losses, they'll lose their job, there'll be issues. So they start focusing too quickly on how do we save or safeguard this, what we currently have. without thinking, wait, so let's think about the people. They are scared. Let's bring them back to the same page and explain to them that they're safe. We're going to help them out and so on. And then move to the second level. But the first level is people, is not people, it's the organization.
Yeah, and it is a difficult balance to strike, right? When you're trying to keep your finances in place and your cost under control and
Exactly, yeah.
revenues in. And then on the other side, you have the softer element, which is your people, and people are scared, and you have to focus there as well.
Yeah.
Not an easy
and I don't blame people. It's a natural instinct. But having said that, if you can just stop and think, then it's the people you need. So if you can make them the first priority, and it doesn't have to be that that's all you're focusing on, just a quick one to make sure everyone's feeling good and safe and everything is fine, and then move to the next level. It's going to be easier for them.
Yeah, absolutely. Because it is these very people that are going to get you your profits and your revenues and your productivity and everything else. So they need to be taken care of.
Yeah, so, very true.
So leadership as a skill, do you think it can be learned, or do you have to be born a leader?
Oh, that's a big one. Okay, so here's my take on that. It's been discussed extensively, and obviously the jury is still out, because a lot of people believe that they're born and a lot of people believe they can be made. In terms of research, it has been proved that it's mostly made, which is interesting. The psychologists say that about 70% nearly is made. It's only 30% that you're born with. And that's also elements that are not so critical that you can't be. 70% is huge that you can be made. It is unrealistic, I think, to assume that you're born with all the 50 elements that come under that big umbrella of leadership. You can motivate people, you can lead people, you can manage their performance, you can create strategy, you can execute strategy, you can do coaching. Obviously, none of this is possible. You can be great at certain things, but not great at others. So I think there's a huge chunk, like I said, the research proves that it's 70% made. So I think there's a huge scope for people to improve, and it's absolutely a learnable skill. You certify yourself to be a coach. You can be a performance manager. You can do strategy workshops. There's a lot of stuff you can do that will improve the way you lead.
So what kind of mindset or attitude should one have if one aspires to be an effective leader?
An open one. It's a lot of people think I've got the personality, I've got the communication skills, I can be a great leader. That's only 10%, 20%. What about the other 80%? Can you really do everything? And that the answer is no, because an effective leader doesn't have all the answers. And there's the answer to this question, that if you don't have all the answers, where are you headed? You can't be a great leader without that. So what are you going to be doing? Pulling in the right people, keeping an open mind, managing their performance. It's a broad-based thing, but I do believe it's a huge scope, and it's absolutely a learnable skill. And that's where we come in.
Oh yes, oh yes. I know how much value you add, because I've worked with you closely. I know that there's a lot of difference that can be created inside a training room, and that can be, further taken down and cascaded. And real difference can be brought about. So I'm going to ask you just one last question, and this has nothing to do with leadership, but I'm very curious to pick your brains on this one. So it's been a difficult period for everybody across the world. People are drowning in insecurities and negativity and all of that. So what is your suggestion or recommendation for people to just, get their motivation back on track and start just becoming more positive and really get the best out of the situation that we are in right now? So what should one do?
That's a broad one. A couple of things. I think keeping a positive mind is critical.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times what people do is they build on the negativity. So somebody says, I just woke up half an hour ago and it's just not my day. I stubbed my toe. I can't find my bag. It's just not my day. Two things have happened and the entire day is lost because of the way you've approached it. So it's the same thing. I think you've got to keep a positive mind. There's a lot of positive news in the press.
Yeah.
So I get a newspaper every morning and there's two ways to look at it. Look at all the bad stuff and say, oh my dear God, it's done.
Yeah.
Or look at some of the good stuff. So today's was that the world economy is not shrinking as we first imagined, and it's actually pretty decent shape. So why not latch onto that? Why are we looking at, oh my dear God, look at the number of people infected and so on. So keeping an open mind and a positive mind does really help. It keeps your energy levels high. It affects you physically as well. So you've got to be able to have that energy level to go out and do what needs to be done. The second one is, I think our assumptions and beliefs are ingrained in us. And at some point we've got to stop and ask, are they valid? What are we doing with them? Where did they come from? When did they come into my psyche? So a live example would be somebody says, why don't you speak to the manager? No, it's not worth it. I've done that before, it doesn't work. And if you really ask them, when did you do it? About 20 years ago. Where did you do it? In another country. Who did you do it with? A manager that I didn't get along with. All these are answerable very easily. This is not the same guy. This is not the same place. This is not the same situation. Why can't you try it again? And people create a mindset where it's difficult for them to come out of what they've already experienced and they feel they know. So question your assumptions and beliefs. And then the last one on that is keep people in mind. All the other stuff is going to come and go, but it's the people, the relationships that are critical for you. Even as a leader, who makes you the leader is your people. And so people come first and all the other stuff is going to be there.
Wonderful, brilliant. Thank you so much. I think that was a delightful chat, Uzair.
Appreciate the opportunity.
It's very, very, I always feel when I invest, when I spend time with you, it's always productive. Either I have fun or I learn something new. So thank you so much for your time.
Really appreciate it. Thank you, Sajni. Thank you.
So,
anytime.
On that note, we are going to sign off, and we're very grateful to Uzair for sharing his thoughts with us. And we hope to bring him back on soon, maybe for another online or a live session.
Anytime.
Up until then, stay tuned, and we'll meet you again soon with another leader, with another conversation. Stay safe and take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you. You too. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.